Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you've never seen my face before, hi, my name is Taylor. I have a 16-month-old baby boy named Reese, and this is our channel. So I made this video about 2 years ago, and it's pretty cringy, which is weird because it's not my very first video I've ever done, but it was the first video I filmed after 2 years of not filming anything. And from being 18 to being 20, I was very different. I was very more reserved, and I guess cared more about how people thought of me, but since then I've done a 180 and I don't really care anymore. I care a little bit because I feel like everybody does, but I've also learned how to talk in front of a camera again, at least a little bit better than before. I'm not super quiet, like the way I was talking in that video was super high-pitched. I don't recommend watching it, that's why I'm redoing it here right now. If you haven't seen the title already, that is what this video is going to be. At the time of filming that video, I was pregnant. And when you're pregnant, you forget a lot of things, especially a bunch of little details. It's called pregnancy brain, if you've ever heard of that. It's a real thing, I promise. It is definitely a real thing. In that video, I talk about how I got pregnant, and I also showed my family's reactions because I did not make a whole separate video. Before we get into the story, give this video a thumbs up. Also, if you haven't already, or if you're new, make sure to subscribe down below so you don't miss out on all of our new videos. Alright, let's get into the story. I thought I deleted the entire thing. I would have been so sad. Oh my gosh, okay. I have all these notes written about what I'm going to talk about. I promise I'm going to talk a lot faster than this, but I thought I deleted all that. That would have been so bad. Okay, the first thing I want to talk about is, was I on birth control and were we being safe? No, I was not on birth control and we weren't necessarily being safe, no. I knew the risks. I knew the outcomes that could have happened. I knew what could happen. We both did, and we were not trying, but we also were kind of like, oh, if it happens, it happens, which is not a mindset you want. Please, if you are young, do not have that mindset. Don't have the mindset that I had, which was, oh, if it happens, because it happened. And it was a struggle for a little bit, especially just mentally. It was a big struggle for both of us to grasp, oh my gosh, we are 20 years old and we're about to have a kid. Back in May of 2020, I had a very short and light period, which I later found out was implantation bleeding. At least I'm pretty sure it was. I did not have a period at all in June. I did not have regular periods at this point. I had them every probably 34 days when the normal average cycle is 28 days. So I was usually a week late anyway. So when I was late, I wasn't very concerned about anything. But once it started getting later and later, and I ended up being 19 days late, that was a little bit concerning. This might be normal, but I'm also having certain symptoms. I was extremely tired, which was not normal for me, especially because I didn't have a job at the time. It was the middle of 2020. I was literally at home all the time. It was the middle of COVID. I shouldn't have been that amount of tired. I was so tired, as if I just did a freaking marathon. I could not stay awake for anything. So tiredness was a major one. I was nauseous, but not to the point where I was throwing up. I didn't throw up actually at all during my pregnancy, I don't think. But I was just really uncomfortably nauseous, and I could not eat anything. The only thing that I could eat that I didn't feel super sick after was fries. My previous cycle, the one where I had the implantation bleeding, right before that, I thought maybe I could be pregnant because that cycle I was also 2 weeks late, and so I took a test and it was negative, and then literally a few days later I got that period, which was implantation bleeding. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just psyching myself out, and I wasted money on a test. So that's why I even waited longer for the next cycle, because I didn't want to waste more money on more tests. On July 10th, 2020, I finally decided to just do it and take the test. I've actually had tests from the previous year that I didn't know I had, or else I would have used it before instead of buying new tests. The test that I took was expired though. It was expired by a few months, so I wasn't sure if it was going to work well. I don't know how expired pregnancy tests work, how expired they are, if it'll mess with it, which I'm sure it does, but it was only a month expired, so I don't think it was that big of a deal. I was so sure that this test was going to be negative because of all the previous times I've taken tests and they've all been negative. I was like, I'm just overthinking it. I'm just too anxious. I'm paranoid, until I actually took the test. Like I said, I was so sure that this test was going to be negative. I didn't do my hair. I didn't try to look good. I did record my reaction because if I was, I wanted to see it. But that's how sure I was. I did not try to look nice at all in this video. I was completely shocked. I didn't even have time to put the test down. I dipped it And as soon as I dipped it, it started going, and it was immediately positive. Like, I didn't have to wait the 3 minutes. It was already super, like, red line immediately. Another reason why I didn't want to get too excited, because since it was an expired test, I thought maybe that could have been why it was so red. In the back of my mind, I was like, no, I'm definitely pregnant, especially with everything else going on. I was like, I'm definitely pregnant. Like I said, I was super excited, but I didn't want to get overwhelmingly excited just in case it was not accurate. I was in so much shock and disbelief, and even though Rusty was at work, I had to call my friends like immediately because I could not keep that a secret. When Rusty got home from work, I ended up telling him, and the way I told him was a little game I tried to do, which was like, oh, guess what's in my hand, while his eyes were closed. And it was kind of stupid, but I literally had nothing else to do, and I didn't want to just straight up be like, hey, I'm pregnant.
Ow! For fuck's sakes!
What is it?
It's a clip!
Okay, go there. Is it closed?
Yeah. Found it in the thing?
Rusty actually hates this video because he can see how sad I am when I tell him, and he was really nervous that a lot of people were gonna be able to tell that I was upset and I was sad. I don't know if people did. I could have just been like an ugly crier. You can definitely tell watching back to the video that I just look so scared and so sad, and I think that's super normal because, like, being young and telling your boyfriend, oh, I'm pregnant, when I didn't have a job, his job wasn't paying the best, we didn't have a stable place to live, and just we weren't really mentally ready at the time. It was very scary. I was scared to tell him. I was scared of how he was going to react. I knew that he wasn't going to hate me and that he wasn't going to leave me and stuff like that, but I was still scared of how he was going to react. So after I showed him and we calmed down and we both were crying and we talked it out a little bit, I told him I still needed to go get more tests because I wasn't sure if this one was accurate because it was expired. So the next day we went and we bought some more tests, and as soon as I dipped it in my pee, it was again immediately positive. So at this point I knew I was definitely pregnant. As far as family, I didn't tell a lot of people right away. I wanted to wait a little bit. My favorite reaction by far is my sister-in-law's. Me and her have been best friends since she was like 12 years old, and she's 21 now. That blows my mind. Her reaction was my favorite. She was so like in disbelief because I had always messed around with her being like, oh, I'm pregnant, you're gonna have a niece or a nephew, and she'd be like, no way, and like obviously not believe me. So this time when I was telling her, she like still didn't believe us.
Kaylee's pregnant.
For real listening?
Yes, for real listening.
No, you're joking.
No, I'm not.
You can feel my heart.
Oh my gosh. You went to the doctors?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Not yet.
That's what we're waiting for. We only found out a few days ago. I wasn't really sure how our distant family would take it when we were telling them that we were pregnant because we were so young. Nobody really had a negative reaction. There were some nervous reactions and worried reactions, but not, oh my gosh, no, you can't be pregnant type reactions. When Rusty initially told my parents that I was pregnant, they were so happy, like to the point they were almost in tears, and I'm pretty sure that has a lot to do with, at the time, my 3 nieces just had moved across the country, so their 3 grandchildren were halfway across the country and they weren't able to see them all the time. So I think the thought of them having another grandchild was just happy thoughts, I guess. I don't know how to explain that well. Rusty's parents had 2 different type of reactions. His mom had more of the worried reaction, also mixed in with happy. Her being a young mom as well, she just knew the struggles that she went through, and she just didn't want us to go through them as well, which is very understandable. I understand her reaction 100%. She wasn't upset. She wasn't disappointed in us. She was just like, all right, you gotta grow up now, basically, which we do, and we did. She was ultimately happy. She was like, dang, I'm gonna be a young grandma, which, funny enough, that was Rusty's dad's reaction. He was just like, oh my gosh, you're making me a grandparent so young, basically, is how he said it. I didn't get either of their reactions because I didn't feel like sticking a camera in their face when I told them. Like I mentioned earlier, at the time, we lived with Rusty's 2 grandparents. So Rusty's grandma, she kind of noticed I wasn't being myself, and she had actually asked me, oh, are you pregnant? And I didn't know at the time, so obviously I said no. And she thought I was lying, and I'm like, I'm not. I was, but I didn't know. So she already kind of knew I was pregnant before I even knew. She asked me if I was, and I told her no. And when I ended up telling her, she just went, oh, I knew already. She literally called it weeks before, which was really funny because she was like, oh, so you lied. And I was like, I didn't. I really didn't know at the time that I was. So at this point, it had been about a month almost. I took my test on July 10th. Since it was the middle of COVID, hospitals were impossible to get appointments for because they were just filled with COVID patients. So I had to wait until, I think it was August 17th, August 13th? I think August 13th, I don't know. It was sometime in August that I had to wait to get an appointment in person to get an ultrasound. The way we told the rest of the world was through these pictures. The day that we got our ultrasound, these are the pictures that we took and we posted. Looking back at these photos, I don't really like them anymore because of the day that we had. I was super bitchy. Like, my whole pregnancy, I was really moody. I was really moody this day. It was the middle of August. It was so hot. I was pregnant. I was getting like hot flashes, and these photos just were not coming out right, which it sounds so stupid, but like I was just so moody. And so when I look back at these pictures, I just remember me being really mean to him. Not mean, but very like bossy and trying to get the picture right, and then getting irritated because it was so hot and it wasn't working. But these are still probably some of my favorite pictures. Just the memories behind them are kind of sad. But it's fine. Here we are today, 2 years later, and I have a 1.5-year-old, which is freaking crazy. This is definitely, I think, a step up from the one I filmed in 2020. At least I hope so. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Again, if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button to join our little family, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys. I'm having a really hard time telling if this matches. Like, it has the red and like the orange, so it kind of matches. But you can't really see it anyway.